And the fact that in the position that they were, I mean, LF is
There's no
very
words.
good at covering that for pretty much from any document. I would agree, but half of the people at that table probably know what they have been up to.
It seems we're both a
What
bit
council
late.
member doesn't really know what's going on in our city, right? I mean, even I wasn't looking into LF, and I found out about LF because somebody just thought I should know. So the fact that I know that little, means they probably 100% know more than I do, considering they even were at the table talking and things like that. Yeah. But with that said, I think Industrial District does deserve to have a synthetic council member. I think that is good for Industrial because it has always been, correct me if I'm wrong, synthetic based. It was once referred to as a synthetic district.
Yes, it was majority synthetic populace due to their verbiage of if you put an organic person to a synthetic, it was about 1 person per 10 synthetics.
I 100% think that you were made for that position, and this isn't me saying that you don't deserve it. I just think a human being in charge of a synthetic-esque district is a little...
That's why I have been endorsing someone. I've talked to Malleus and several other councilmen, and in letting them know that me on the seat personally would prevent me from doing a lot of what I do. It would put a target on my back. Pretty much the same reason Gildir stepped down, is he knew a lot of things were going on, so he put forward a representative to take his place. Just like how Ethan was a steward of Garden before he endorsed Red Hollow. I have been endorsing someone who is, well, a lot more tech in him than me.
Okay. I guess my next thing that I'm getting to is the offer that I wish to make to you. One that I think you should very heavily consider. I think it would benefit you. I think the respect that you deserve and are owed, you will find it in this deal. I know it's going to be a lot to ask, but I would like you to join Kaijin. I would like you to join ISB specifically. I would like you to be a spokesperson or someone that represents District Zero, speaks on behalf of our generators and power specifically. You would work very closely with Overlord on this. I think the work that you do and the close ties and how both of our generators operate are incredibly similar. And I think you working directly for District Zero would benefit us incredibly. It would definitely get us a closer in with Industrial. And to be fair, I would prefer to leave LF in the seat so eventually everybody can see for themselves how shitty them being in that position is going to be for us all. And I would prefer at the end of the day to you be in a position where you can laugh at them and say, well, I told you so. This is not something that has to be permanent, and I understand that I'm asking you to step out of the game. I'm asking you to not pursue the seat. That's a lot to consider, considering how much you have done work for. But let's be honest, all the work that you did for however long you've been doing it for got spat on in the matter of 2 seconds because some nobody showed up. That is how little that council considers you as a voice. And I would prefer to you have a voice that actually has weight and meaning. District Zero also doesn't have the best reputation when it comes to our power, and having you, somebody that the people look up to and actually trust, having you here would benefit us too. There's a lot of benefits for us. Obviously, you would get a full salary. You would be working directly under Octavia, and you would be able to sit in our meetings and speak on behalf of District Zero whenever we go to those meetings. I know I'm
To be
kind of
clear,
a...
just so it's 100% on the table and there's no question about it, we would be bringing you to the council meetings still as an additional aid to Councilman Coda.
Yeah. I know it's a lot to ask. But that is our proposition.
That is a lot to. That is a lot to think on. Because the other thought that I was thinking on when you were talking about this was how old rules seem to keep everyone at a distance. They always say that each council member needs to work on their own and literally push each other away. So I've been trying to think of how to, if we are for the people, in the long run, council members should be working together.
I agree.
So it brings the thought of potentially trying to work out a thought of doing both of these in a way.
Okay.
Could give
What do you have?
input in here.
Go for it.
First of all, Amphibian stopping the pursuit of the seat and joining you guys is gonna look like he's gonna have his tail behind his leg, like he's giving up and just giving it over to the Foundry. The whole shtick of saying people can see for themselves that Leaf Foundry is bad for the people and the bad council member will not matter. 80% of the council is bad. Mayor still has a seat. And once they're in there, they're gonna stay in there, especially since they have been, oh, you told me, endorsed by Jobot. Who
Correct.
even after 3 years of absence and letting his district go to shit, still had a voice in that meeting. A voice big enough that he could walk around the table.
He did flaunt that a lot.
If you throw the
don't.
towels, so to speak, all the reputation that you have your building up, will be gone. And LF will claim that seat and will never give it back. I have a lot of personal experience with them. I went to war against them.
One of the reasons I hired him. He has personal experience a lot with LF.
What were you gonna say something?
Here's a proposition that I can give. Wait, quick. This has nothing to do with Inferior and his tactics, how he's gonna plan things. This is something that I'm gonna be planning myself with a music artist called Riot. We're gonna set out a petition. We're gonna make the information public. We're gonna let the populace know, and will the council show what the voices of the people actually want? Because if it's just in that small circle, from everyone just speaking their own mind, being in their own little worlds, there's nothing real coming out, and then at the end, everything's already decided and the populace just have to live with it. That's how it always has been over the last few years. This time, Riot will have a concert on the 16th. We will be pushing the petition today, and we will remind people and speak our thoughts on that concert. We're gonna make it known to the entirety of Sephira what the council is currently planning, and put the voices of the people out. That way, Inferior and you guys can still plan on your thing. You can still go with the corporate route and show who makes the most income, and show that you're more competent with LF. Meanwhile, LF has to fight up an entire mob of people that are currently pissed off.
I would advise caution in the wording of this petition, because I guarantee offhand that none of the council members care about the voice of the people, and that being accusatory or confrontational to the council is just going to put more force against them. You don't want to accuse the council of being the bad guys and that they're responsible for what's happening.
I can
with
send
LF.
you a copy of said position. But in my personal opinion, of someone that lived in the street the entire time, accusing the council is actually a good idea, because it's gonna put them in hot water and they're gonna need to defend themselves.
I think the way the council will defend themselves is going to cost unnecessary civilian lives.
I would say most likely not directed at the council itself, because another way that they would do that would be just saying their district, their rules, industrial can fend for itself.
Exactly.
To
Which has
to
always
be
been
accusatory to LF is 100% fine.
It is
To
mostly
be
accusatory
accusatory
against
to the
you.
whole council
To
is...
LF
I would-
and Jobot.
I would
Those
focus
has
it.
been accused.
That's fine. That's fine if you're not the council itself. If you're doing it towards the councilmen, singular Jobot, that's fine. Everyone knows he's been gone for years, and it felt like he abandoned the industry. So people being upset and angry
Papers on
about
the
that
table.
is
Right.
So,
If I may
to-
also make a suggestion. Instead of you coming to join us, we make a partnership.
We can't.
Whatever company you put. Oh, Blackstone
Okay,
can't make
so-
a partnership
so-
with him?
just to be clear,
No.
let us finish the
Mm.
first topic of what did you have in mind? Is it a no to the deal, a yes to the deal? Do you need time to think on it? What do you have in mind instead? Let's finish that, and then, based on what
It's
you say, we'll
a-
go from there.
well, it's a need time to think on it. Obviously, if I went the route of backing down, because, as I said, with all the work put into it, suddenly dropping out because a large faction that is militarized stepped in would show I have no power to do what I said that I do for the industry, or the industrial district, which is protect it. Backing down completely would pretty much say I would just keel over to any large force.
I understand, but also you would have Kaijin's backing, and whatever you need to protect whatever belongs to you in industrial, prolonging that territory that you own. I feel like we have the funds, the means, the people to make that very possible for you.
You do.
On top of that,
I-
I think it is a important point to consider that while I think we support you and it would be preferable to have you in that seat, personally, Mr. Koda can speak on this differently if he wishes. I don't think with your assets, what you control, and how you conduct a business, that you can legitimately beat LF for this seat. So taking this deal maintains a good portion of your power and ability to affect change without losing it all going down swinging here.
I think we can make a difference, and I think we can still get you in that seat, even with you working directly under us. You don't even have to really work for us. I mean, if we want to get real conniving with it, perhaps you don't even have to work for us on paper.
That is when I was going down their statement of partnership. Like I said, all the council keeps thinking that they have to work on their own. I've never believed that. Technically, as you're aware, from what I've heard, is a few other councilmen also believe that, but a few are very heavily set in stone on thinking that no one should work together because it will disrupt balance. If anything, I think it would be better if the whole city itself came together. Council is supposed to work together, not be at each other's throats and only come together to make one decision if it benefits one or the other. And while this may be underhanded, if it somehow, we'd keep it under the tables until more are brought on board. If we wanted to try and gain more backings of actually having councilmen work together. Well, of course, everyone would still be under their own district, actually having a more inner workings to actually work together rather than just saying district here when our districts are literally like on top of each other, side by side. We should be looking at Zephyr as a whole, not just sections.
No, I agree. But I think, let's think a little realistically in what is current. That's a long way, and we are nowhere near that being our reality. As much as I really fucking want that to be, and that's my whole purpose in this seat, is my original reason for being here was I wanted to unite. I have learnt, being in the seat, that it is really not as simple as that. But having your support, having you there with us, having you step down, I think, doesn't show that you're weak. It shows that you're willing to put aside that you don't want to play the fucking games that they were presenting, and that it's not just about some seat. You can do far more with our funding, our support, our alliance, than you having to prioritize, now having to prove to an entire district that you're worth something, which you already have done. The fact that they don't realize that, I think just shows that this is just a losing fight for you. And sure, pride and proving to the people that you're going to try anyway is important. But it circles back around to, I feel if you work with us and work under ISB, you can still do that tenfold.
Another reason that I am hesitant to back out is I made a promise to someone, because before LF ever came into the picture, there was another who was... We were more having a friendly competition to
Persephone?
gain the seat. Yeah. She said if she was to drop down that I don't give up on it.
I don't consider this as you giving up. I think you can definitely still... Sorry, go ahead. Say your piece.
Unfortunately, Jobont was right about one thing. It is just a chair, and that the people with power are the ones who will get things done anyways.
It is just a chair. And I do plan to get things done. So...
If you join ISB, and it comes to a point where LF needs to be forcefully removed, let's be honest, what is stopping us from appointing you to be put in a council position once again? I mean, the rules are, oh, you can't support somebody, blah, 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 but we will have funded you enough to a point where once the time comes, we can cut ties. You don't have to work for
Different
ISB anymore.
question. How do you think LF can even be removed?
I think it's
I
only a
don't
matter of
think-
time before people see them for who they actually are.
People already do that, but they're still around. What you don't understand is LF is one part of an enormous faction. They have an entire space station where we went up and destroyed just that single part. And now they're up and running again. We already worked on removing them, and they just came back. They're the biggest tumor that's currently growing in the city.
One of many.
They started out small by killing off gang members, absorbing them for biomass, using that for production. What is stopping them to come over here and take care of the Whisperers and Tigers?
You're already proving my point. What's the point of you trying to fight for a seat that you've already lost?
On top of that, the reason I believe LF can actually be removed is that there are other council members that we have already worked out deals with to sow doubt about LF in the future, to collaborate on their removal should the time come necessary. And again, to Councilman Coda's point, if ever necessary, we can simply state that we don't think LF is the councilman. We can assist you in an invasion of Industrial, say that we own the seat, and that we are handing the seat down to you in the same way Jobot tried to do with LF. There are a lot of options on how to trap.
Listen,
No more so
they are
than-
going... Yeah, they're going to do that anyway, and more than what is already happening. At least this is
How about-
something that works, and that we're willing to
about a
fight
bit
for the right reasons, not for just some corporate
compromise?
gain.
We can work out the details a little bit more on this, but I think it would be still good to try. But like you said, if it looks like at the end, for some reason, LF gets that seat, then they can have the seat. We can write up a thing that I will if it fails. Work beside you all and show what could have been.
I hate to be the one again to put the same damper on it, but saying that when it looks, or if it looks like LF will win the seat, that you will do that. Well, it unfortunately already looks like LF will win that seat.
And let's be honest, the only way you're going to get that seat, I think, is going to lead to war anyway. You need to find dirt on these people. You need evidence.
There is so much dirt on that.
I believe that. I believe that. But
What matters
think-
is getting the right people to care about that.
if you even use
And that's
one
what I've been
person
doing.
to get the evidence that you need, and civilians die because of it, they're going to use that against you. Without question. You are in the shittest position that anyone is in that council room.
To even enforce on that point, your security officer here is stating they're planning to start a protest that could easily turn into a riot. God forbid any civilian dies during that, that will instantly be used against you. It won't show bad on LF, it will show bad on you for allowing that to happen
And then,
from somebody
if you
on
go with
your
your
security
side-
team.
if you go with your side and then take the seat away after giving up, and that kills civilians, that will also look bad. It will look bad regardless. So why are you denying the civilian populace to speak their voice?
I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying there is no feasible way, and Therial wins this race. And it is better long term for him to take the option now to join in here and affect long term change, to play the long game, than to go down swinging over some sense of pride or promise or morals that you have. There may be 1,000 who die in the pursuit of saving the million, but you have to see clearly that this is that choice and not the other way around.
if I may as well, you should not see this as giving up. Business is the same as war. Sometimes you have to give ground. And when you give that ground, that gives you time to prepare for your counterattack. If you give up enough ground, eventually you should be able to encircle your enemy and starve them.
I agree that the civilian populace should have a voice. Do not get me wrong. Malleus is still in a seat, and we've seen how much people protest against him. I fear that regardless of your efforts, it won't do much. And they won't even care.
Why you think you will get LF out of the seat? Meg is still in there. If you would have to change the possibility to not even get him in the seat, would you not try anything? Would you just give up?
This is me trying.
You
Do
can say
not.
how many times you want that this
Hold
is
on.
not giving up.
It is a lot to consider, especially since I have meetings with practically every other council that is wanting to discuss potential of how to push things. That's why it's hard to think of this right off the bat when I probably have about 3 more meetings after this one on the same subject.
I would caution you that you will find the people who speak in one way and make you a deal behind the door are usually doing that in the reverse order of their intention. As you have seen us support LF, our obvious intention is not to have them there in the long term. The people who loudly will support you will, behind closed doors, be supporting LF more than likely. The reason being the exact same as why we supported LF publicly, because they want to win the long game. It is easy to see who the stronger dog in the race is, and they want to play nice to ensure that if by some miracle you pull it off, they still have ties with you. But everybody thinks LF will win, and that's the one the majority of their support will go to. Because if LF takes that seat, they don't want any history of having supported you for that spot.
We can make the deal go even further. You may correct me if you do not think this is wise, but if you come to work for ISB, we can make a promise that if you get enough evidence, real proper evidence, and enough voices and something tangible for us to work with, when it comes to LF needing to be removed from that seat, Kaijin will fight to remove LF.
Which goes to my point of why I think LF will actually be removed, as opposed to somebody like Malleus. Malleus is somebody who is disliked by the people, but in general has extremely favorable connections with the other council members. Notice a trend? As the councilmen don't care at all about what the public thinks, people who voice problems with Malleus won't be listened to, because for all of the other councilmen, it is beneficial to have him there. The key to get LF removed is to convince the other councilmen that they need to be removed. Not the people, the other councilmen, of which I know 2 already are interested in not seeing them stay long term, which can pave the way for your return to industrial in the long game.
Yeah, this is definitely something I need a little bit of time to think on. This is not something I can just instantly answer because of everything and all the potentials. I see both sides. I see your sides of what you're saying, and that's why I'm not just saying yes and not just saying no. There's a lot on the table.
I understand your position and that it is difficult to peer into every possible branch, but I also think that if you give yourself enough time, you will come up with excuses to not take this deal. It's difficult to discern what is, I've already gotten this far, so I might as well, and when the correct cutoff point for this is what's best occurs. We, unfortunately, as humans, lack that kind of foresight.
Humans also do a quick decision on the whim if they're getting pressured.
We don't really have time, months, years to make decisions. You saw how quickly Ethereal got removed in just 2 seconds. That's how quick things can change in those council meetings.
Well, we already know a decision will be made in 2 months' time.
Very true.
The problem is, in 2 months, if you have gone down swinging, this offer won't have the same impact. Even if we did absorb you and give you a golden parachute out of whatever problem you were in, that's all it would end up coming down to. It wouldn't be you sticking around to fight the good fight, and we wouldn't be able to support you as the long-term horse in the race for Industrial District. Your potential to play this kind of long game will die by the end of this actual competition.
The months that they are providing you are the months that we'll use to grow your territory in Industrial.
But if you don't take the deal, you will just continue to lose over these months until inevitably LF reaches the inevitable outcome. I would be interested to hear, do you genuinely feel, with your current allies and resources, that you can legitimately convince all 6 other council members that you deserve that spot?
With my connections with Guardian and my connections with Garden, I believe I can sway those two at least to my side. I also have a personal connection with Malleus, as much as I hate to admit, which means I could gain his favor very quickly since he enjoys my company.
Personal connections is not what I'm talking about here. At the end of these 2 months, we will be reviewing what you have done with the district and what the profits of your business are. and we will be sharing those with each other. Everybody will be looking at those same reports. And if yours don't look better than LF's, you won't get those votes. You have to be the best corporation in your district to hold that seat. And I don't think whatever you have is better than what LF has.
You're forgetting that
Do you legitimately believe that?
of LS companies and buildings have been flattened in industrial last month. An inferior company has been completely restored the power grid.
True, but if they rebuild all of those infrastructures and
And it's
things
gonna
of
be
the sort,
hard
that
to
just
rebuild all of this by they're having
They
the
have
entirety of
rebuilt.
the city throwing tomatoes at them.
They're already
synthetic,
there.
yes?
Yeah, they have rebuilt. So, and if they wherever they've rebuilt, being synthetic, they probably did it 24/7 because they don't need to sleep.
okay. Why don't we make this simple? If you're not going to make a decision now, I know that you need time for your meetings and things like that. How long do you think you would need to make a decision?
Let's see.
Because you not taking this sooner doesn't benefit us in any way either. Us gaining you at this time benefits us a lot. This is a two-way street here.
Yes, we are not going to support you long term out of the kindness of our hearts, is what we are getting at here.
I'm aware. Let's see. Red Harlow, I can probably.
You could have made that sound like less harsh.
It's business. I understand that. If all the meetings go and start as planned, I should be able to get back to you within a week.
Let's make it 2 to give you time, because when you come back to accept this deal or decline this deal and still ask for our support, I don't want you to come to us and say, I talked to Red Harlow and he agreed to support me, and I talked to Malleus and he agreed to support me. You need to show hard, physical proof that your corporation will perform better at the end of these 2 months than LF will. And if you cannot show that in 2 weeks, you need to take the deal or we can't support you.
In the way that we can now. Obviously, we'll still try to help where we can in the future, but you get what she's saying.
Yes, I understand what she's saying. So we'll put a pin in that one for 2 weeks' time to then reschedule a meeting and see where everything stands.
Okay, sounds good. In regards to, I think, our next topic, which, I mean, we got a lot to do this evening, so kind of want to wrap up as quickly as we can. Talking about the backup generator, I think would be beneficial, so everyone here, including Overlord, is on the same page of what me and you discussed and how we are moving forward with our backup generator.
Well, what questions do you have about it?
I think the way we discussed it last night was succinct. We are simply renting the property which the generator operates on. It is, of course, a generator that our subcontractors built, that they maintain, and that uses our technology. So we are happy to pay you for the land we are renting, but we will continue to maintain our control over power. Unless you
If
had a
that
different
is-
idea on that.
Original thought was obviously for the sake of secrecy. I'm aware that there'd be no names or notification of which plot of land you were actually renting, because we want to keep that private.
Naturally.
As far as I was aware, didn't know that you wanted to switch the type of power plant over to yours, but I know there are similarities, or heavily similarities. So I guess one question, and it could be information that it is zero secrecy. You're not allowed to talk about it because of the technology you use. But may I ask what kind of core you use for your power plants?
It
Do you
is
have-
confidential. If you joined
Confidential.
ISB, then obviously these things would be more open to you, as you would directly work for our power stations.
Understood.
But I'm not at liberty to give up that info.
I can at least show you, though this one is slightly a failed creation. It didn't come out 100%, but we use crystals to a degree. That is considered a failure because it will only work for... That one will probably be about 24 hours before it shatters. Think of it like a plant that does photosynthesis, except with mana instead of carbon dioxide.
How many megawatts can it produce?
Well, we don't have to work at the scale you do, so we don't try and put as much into it as you guys are. Never tested its limits
I'm going to excuse myself and
shattering
make
point.
preparations for other events throughout
But
the night.
I haven't had
Okay,
it reach a
I
limit
trust you
yet.
can wrap up this conversation on your own.
But these are crystals that we have made outside of Zephyra and have them brought in through portals, so there's less chance of, well, interruption. Magitech portals, to be specific.
What are proceedings going forward?
But this was the idea of the power plant, or the plant that would operate and would activate if anything ever happens. Not this one specifically, it would be a larger one that generally lasts for 1 to 2 weeks before we swap them out. That's why you might notice if any of our plants ever slightly dip for a moment, it's why power plants are close enough to, well, balance each other out, so when one turns off for an hour to swap out the crystals, the others are taking place, covering the differences. No one ever really notices the power going out. It's like a web, everything's interconnected. I don't mind sharing that because your people will most likely get the gist of the idea, since they are looking over the hazards.
Yeah.
How these are made, though, is obviously a trade secret.
Of course.
Of course.
If I may.
Yeah.
I personally would prefer our technology be used as the baseline and have these as backups to the backups. If everything fails, then your technology kicks on.
That's fine.
I would also respect that no research is done into how the generators work. At least our generators, once they are installed.
We need to sign a contract and
That's perfectly
make
fine,
that
and if...
confidential.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. And if you need, we can also have workers there sign NDAs to make sure that they don't leak any information.
I'll have Overlord prep a contract, and then we'll have
Ooh,
them send
contracts.
over the necessary means to keep your stations powered. Perhaps it will give you time to do more research on these and make them better. Not that the ones that you have are not already good. Obviously, I know that's a failed one.
There's
Just-
always going to be a botched batch every now and then. This was one of the ones that didn't grow as well as it should have.
Okay. Is there any last things that you want to discuss or talk about before we wrap up the meeting?
I think we have covered a majority of everything. Nothing off the top of my head comes to mind. Obviously, if there is anything that I think up later, we will bring it up the next time we meet.
Sure.
And if I end up somehow coming up with a different plan, again, once we meet up, I will bring that forward before I say yes or no. To see if it
Sounds like a
changes
plan.
anyone's thought process.
Sure. Well, thank you for coming to the meeting. I'll have Knight escort you down safely. And... yeah, sure. Good to see you, Ethereal. I'm sorry what happened to you in the meeting. It's kind of cringe.
Everyone in there, rather than thinking of for the betterment, likes to, as you said, swing their dick.
Dokken.
I think you're a good dude.
Dokken. Interesting.
All things considered. I think you're the best suited for one of those. I think you're young to grow.
If you screw up your foundation, then everything topples. And that foundation is
didn't
the
get-
people.
My seat without the help of my people. So that I agree with. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, Mr. Ethereal. I'll see you later.
You as well, Aki.
You guys can move to the hollow here shortly.